Ever wonder why some days you wake up and just don't feel like writing, even though you have to? I'll share with you why and give you some insight into how to fix that right now. As an online business owner, writing is a big part of what you do, whether you like it or not. Whether you write your own sales pages, or you're writing social media content, or you're writing a blog post, or you're writing an email, an awkward one or a fun one, you're gonna end up writing multiple times throughout every day. So it can be a big deal when you don't feel like writing. It can really set you behind. So why don't you feel like writing? There are generally two major camps. Number one, business owners who simply don't like writing at all and feel that it really drains their creative energy. So even though it's really important to have authentic and consistent content out there, it's very hard for them to work themselves up to it, and they'd much rather basically spend money to have someone else do it for them, or at least hold them accountable to make sure it gets done. And number two, business owners who actually really like writing but get kind of paralyzed because they feel it's so important, right? They have an important message to share with the world. They want to make sure they're providing value, and that can be kind of paralyzing. Alternatively, they might find themselves saying they feel drained, or they're out of ideas, or they're not feeling inspired. Does that sound like you? If you're in camp number one and just don't like writing, then you can absolutely still create authentic content by hiring it out. My recommendation is that you build a long-term relationship with a really skilled writer, someone who is capable of both doing copywriting and content writing, and content marketing strategy ideally too. That is someone who will really get to know who you are, what your brand voice is, what your services or products include. That way they'll be able to convey the heart of your brand, and as long as you double check everything and sign off on it, you're going to feel like you've actually expressed yourself out in the world, and it's going to be conveyed that way to the people who really need you. If you're not quite sure what the difference is between copywriting and content writing, and how you should hire someone to help you with either of those things, check out the video I've done on the difference and how to hire right here. You'll also find it in the description box below. If you're in camp number two and say, I love writing, but I feel creatively drained or creatively blocked, then I'm gonna give you a few reasons why that might be happening. So, often, I don't believe that writer's block has to control you. There are plenty of ways that honestly, by simply acknowledging it, you can start to break through to the other side. So acknowledge what is the cause. One really common cause of writer's block is fear. You can probably identify this if you answer yes to any of these questions. When you get writer's block, do you feel a bit incompetent, a bit like a faker, or even like a failure? If you answered yes to any of those questions, even if it's in a quiet internal voice, chances are that it's a fear that is preventing you from being able to produce creative content. If being unable to write is related to you feeling incompetent in some way, or like an imposter, of course that's going to be scary. Those are huge stakes and huge things to compare yourself to. But remember that those stakes aren't fair, because perfection isn't human. So acknowledge that that's how you're feeling, and that's something you're honestly afraid of, but don't over-identify with it. That's the prompt I would give to you. I have a generalized anxiety disorder, but I am not anxiety. I acknowledge that it is an experience I have, but it doesn't control me, it doesn't define me, and honestly, I'm doing everything I can to manage it really well. So even if you don't have an outright disorder, right, of course you can also explore different ways to face the fears that you have, whether that is simply acknowledging it, whether it's journaling about it, maybe therapy would be supportive, but just acknowledging that and remembering that the stakes you're holding yourself to are not fair, because you're a human being. You don't have to create the most beautiful, most valuable piece of content ever. Chances are that, people, we don't judge each other, generally speaking, at least anywhere near as harshly as we judge ourselves. Most people are really generous, and honestly, most people just aren't paying that much attention. If they are going to have a problem with something you put out into the world, they're not your person. They're not the person you resonate with. Maybe they're not the person you'd want to work with either. It's okay to feel the fear and then write anyway. Fear doesn't get to be in the driver's seat. It isn't you. It's something that's trying to keep you safe. So, like Elizabeth Gilbert, acknowledge the fear, say thank you for always trying to protect me, You can sit in the back seat now. I'm going to be in charge. I'm going to drive. Now, the cause of my creative blocks is generally exhaustion or burnout. That might be yours too. So, for example, as an online business owner in my case, and as someone who's still building the foundations of that business in a lot of ways, it's still early in, it's easy to find yourself needing to work overtime. It just is. As you build an online business, as you start anything new, and you're practicing or you're building new skills, it takes effort and time. So you're expending a lot of energy and you're not necessarily getting as much rest as you need. Even if you're further into your business and you actually absolutely love your work, if you do love it that much, you might get into a flow that ends up being really tiring. Once you're actually out of the flow and you're done for the day, you might be totally drained because you just put so much creative effort into the thing that you love to do, your zone of genius, whether that is creating jewelry or it's being really present with the coaching clients that you serve. You might put a lot of energy into that because you're really passionate about it and you're really in the present moment. So at the end of the day, it might be easy to feel too tired to keep going. As business owners, we're likely to approach our work with really high energy, and we also tend to be prone to burnout. we work hard, right? If you're an entrepreneur, it's because you're resilient and you're willing to work extra hours so that you're working for yourself, at least at the beginning. It's common to experience exhaustion at the beginning, and it's something we get better at. We try to avoid in the future, right? It takes some practice though. At least for me, it's not something that I have mastered yet, finding that perfect balance. It's something I'm exploring and really doing my best to get better at, but it's a balance and it's a practice more than anything. So if you're feeling exhausted or burnt out, take a break from writing. People are going to forgive you. Even if you need to take a month off from content, you can let people know that you're taking a bit of a break for your mental health or whatever phrase you want to use. And then you can just come right back in. You don't have to explain yourself. If you want to acknowledge your absence, you can. If not, don't worry. Most people, especially if you're only away for a week or 2 weeks, they're not even going to notice. And if they do notice, it's just because they love you. So take the time that you need, the space that you need to recover, and then start writing again. You are a creative person, and if you like writing, if you're in camp number 2 and you're listening to this now, you're inherently always going to be a writer. So you'll be able to get back there once you have the energy. The third reason why you might love writing but feel completely blocked is that you have a lack of direction or you don't quite know where to start. This is common when you start writing blog posts for the first time ever. If your experience has been writing work emails or essays in university or case studies, especially in corporate environments, writing blog posts are very, very different, right? And writing memoirs are very different. They're a different medium. All of these things might just be new and you might just not know the structures yet, or you're not entirely sure how you go about writing a blog post that's SEO friendly. What do you need to do first? How do you find a great key phrase? All this stuff can feel really overwhelming, right? You just might not know what's step 1. If you can find step 1 and get into it, you're probably going to be able to write, at least go through a full draft and then return to it later. But if you can't put pen to paper or put your fingers on the keyboard because you don't know where to begin, it's paralyzing. So that's something that I help people with, right? As a writing coach and a content marketing strategist, I help people identify what step number 1 is for them, whether that is finding some great SEO key phrases that inspire your topic and make sure that you're getting visibility, or it's finding ways to generate inspiration and then later returning to SEO and publication and repurposing, etc., etc., etc. We find the strategy that works for your personality because there isn't just one right way to do things. And I teach you the important pieces like structure, when to do the research, when to prepare this or that piece of it. It can feel overwhelming, especially if it's new, but also if writing is intended to be more of a creative expression for you or part of your content marketing strategy, but it's not the full thing. Unless you're a full-time blogger, probably you want some support to keep you accountable to a consistent publication schedule, to understand how to use SEO key phrases, etc., etc. And I honestly work with some full-time bloggers as well who want a second set of eyes on their writing to make sure it's constantly improving, that they're reaching a better and broader audience, and so that they can grow massive someday. Maybe they can write their own book. So it's okay to need support. That's what I do, and there's plenty of people who are getting that support already. You could totally be the next one and stop being paralyzed, because I'll help you identify, is it fear? Is it exhaustion or burnout? Or is it a lack of direction? I can help you identify which one it is, and I will give you the answer to how to get through it, how to start writing again, and how to start enjoying it again. That is the joy of what I do, and I love to support fellow entrepreneurs, other small business owners who are making a big difference in the world and who need to take care of themselves while making sure they're spreading their message. If you're interested in coaching with me, I'll link in the description to how we can work together. It would be an incredible experience, and I'd love to get to know you. So, are you in camp number 1, you don't like to write and you're going to outsource? Or camp number 2, and you're going to try and make it through your writer's block? I'd love to know what identified with you. Hopefully you now feel like writing. If you like this video, please give it a little thumbs up and subscribe for more copywriting, content marketing, and entrepreneurship advice. Until next time, remember, your voice matters. Let's set it free. See you again soon.